Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be taking a look at good old Zabuza and answering a question that I've been asked many times.
How tough are you?
Now, one thing that may surprise you, I know it surprised me when I started looking into this topic, is Zabuza's barely in the series, like at all. He only shows up in 4 volumes, and he only really gets to fight in one of those volumes. In volumes 3 and 4, which focus on the fight that takes place on the Great Naruto Bridge, most of the action comes from Naruto and Sasuke's fight against Haku. Zabuza does engage Kakashi, and we do see it from time to time, but we don't get to see him do anything new here. He doesn't do anything distinctly different from all the stuff he showed off during his first encounter with Team 7. Then in volume 55, when Kabuto revives him with the Edo Tensei, he's dealt with really quickly, and I mean really quickly. He only gets to use one ninjutsu, the hidden mist jutsu, and he fights maybe 1 or 2 people in hand-to-hand combat. Even then, he doesn't really land any hits on anybody. He gets sealed pretty quickly and then is almost immediately forgotten about. He does most of his fighting in volume 2, though the fight I have in mind is a pretty brief one. It's only about 3 chapters long, so I don't have a lot of reference material here. Zabuza is pretty intimidating during this fight. You can chalk it up to as many different factors as you want, but the fact still remains that he practically beats Kakashi here. If not for the interference from Naruto and Sasuke, there's a strong possibility that both Kakashi and Tazuna could have been killed, and this is pretty impressive considering it's Kakashi we're talking about. Of course, this Kakashi is much weaker than the one we see later in the series, but Zabuza still outplayed him and quickly trapped him in a water prison without much difficulty at all. Now, after Kakashi is freed from the water prison, Zabuza gets swept up pretty quickly, but to be fair, I think this is the result of him being shocked and overwhelmed by the bizarre powers of the Sharingan. I mean, you can see him slowly start to freak out as he struggles to understand what's going on, and it's this shock, combined with a bit of influence from Genjutsu, that keeps him from performing the giant vortex jutsu before Kakashi is able to do it himself. While that does make Zabuza's defeat seem a bit less embarrassing, it still leaves me in a weird situation where I have to use one short fight to judge what he's capable of. Now, based on his performance here, I'd say Zabuza is very powerful. Not overwhelmingly strong, of course. He's not going to compete with any of the members of the Akatsuki, but he certainly deserves a bunch of credit. Even at the beginning of part 1, Kakashi's no joke. As a matter of fact, during the search for Tsunade, Jiraiya even says that Kakashi's an obvious candidate for Hokage. So with that in mind, considering Zabuza was able to keep up with Kakashi fairly easily, it's safe to say that he's definitely either at the very tippity top of Jonin level or somewhere in the bottom rung of Kage level. Outside of combat, there are a handful of other indicators that give us an idea of how strong Zabuza might be as well. The first example given is a story told in part by both Kakashi and Zabuza, wherein during one of the Hidden Mist Academy's graduation exams, Zabuza slaughtered every single one of his classmates. He killed over 100 potential genin, basically for no reason. He wasn't required to, he only had to kill one other person, but he still did it anyway just for fun. This says more about the potential that Zabuza had than it does about his actual full power, but still, it's pretty impressive regardless. I don't think any of the Leaf Genin would have been able to do the same thing. As a matter of fact, the only Genin that we see throughout all of Part 1 and Shippuden that I think would be capable of doing anything similar is Gaara. Another example can be seen during Sasuke's attack on the 5 Kage summit. Chojuro, who would later go on to become Mizukage, is clearly visibly shaken by the idea of fighting Sasuke, and the only reason given for this is because Sasuke was part of the team that took Zabuza out. Now, like with the last one, this isn't a direct indication of power, but it does show that Zabuza had a pretty widespread reputation, and it's still very impressive. The fact that one of the Mizukage's aides was afraid to fight somebody solely because that person was part of a team that beat Zabuza, I mean, it sort of speaks for itself. Now, of course, it's very possible that Zabuza's reputation made him sound a lot scarier than he actually was, but I don't think that means we should outright dismiss this. I think that this is definitely worth acknowledging, even as nothing more than a minor point. The last important statement regarding Zabuza's strength is that he was a member of the most powerful generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Now, this isn't super important because it's impossible to tell how much Zabuza contributed to this notion on his own. For all we know, he could have had nothing to do with it. It could have been thanks to all of the other members of the 7 ninja swordsmen at the time, but I don't think that that's incredibly likely. Not that it really matters all that much anyway, since we don't know how strong an average member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist is supposed to be, but it is a vague indicator of Zabuza's ability, and it, along with everything else that I've mentioned so far, makes it pretty clear that he's not an average Jonin. By now, I think I've made it pretty clear that it's a little difficult to precisely measure how strong Zabuza is, but in my opinion, he's a decent bit weaker than Kakashi was at the beginning of the series. I don't think too many people will find that to be an outlandish claim, since he did lose both of his fights against Kakashi, but like I I said earlier, since it is Kakashi we're talking about, his losses against him don't make him look that bad. Anyway, before I go, let me provide a bit of a closing statement about Zabuza. This isn't to say that he's weak or anything similar, but Zabuza's a ninja in every sense of the word. He's an assassin and a master of stealth, and is probably much more comfortable approaching combat like an actual ninja would than in the straightforward, over-the-top manner that many other Naruto characters do. So even though he may not have displayed some of the most impressive large-scale attacks in the series, it's hard not to respect the guy's skills as an assassin. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I think he's either at the very top of Jonin level or somewhere at the very bottom of Kage level. I think that with enough work and dedication, he could definitely become the Mizukage, but I doubt he'd be anywhere close to the most powerful one. Anyway, sorry for the short video. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of reference material for Zabuza, but a lot of people have been asking for this video, so I figured I'd indulge them anyway. Anyway, that's gonna be all from me. Thanks as always for watching the video all the way to the end. Leave any requests or questions you have in the comments below. Make sure you have a great rest of the day, and until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.